Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the FY 2021 Business and International Education New Application Webinar. My name is Tanyelle Richardson, Senior Program Officer in the Office of International Foreign Language Education. We are pleased to take the opportunity to provide you with technical assistance today under the BIE program, and we are so excited that BIE has been funded after a long 10-year hiatus. Let us begin. In today's webinar, we'll be discussing the purpose of BIE, applicant eligibility, the selection criterion, application tips, the review process, and application submission tips. What is BIE? BIE is federal seed money designed to do two things: improve the academic teaching of the business curriculum and conduct outreach activities that expand the capacity for the business community to engage in international economic activities. Eligibility. In order to be eligible for the BIE award, you must be an institution of higher education, whether it be a 2-year or 4-year, and enter into an agreement or MOU with a business enterprise, a trade association, a trade organization, or small business development center. It should be a strong partnership that shows both the academic as well as the business community side. Your application must contain an actual letter of agreement or MOU. This is not a letter of support. It should outline exactly what both parties are agreeing to do, and it must be signed by both partners. So if you are funded, we will require you to have an actual signed signature copy, but for this process, an electronic copy will be sufficient. It should detail all the aspects of what you're going to be doing over the next 2 years of your funding, whether it be activities in the local business community or assisting with your curriculum or helping with study abroad activities. Whatever you both agree to do, it must be outlined in this agreement or MOU. Eligible activities. This list is not exhaustive, but it does give you an opportunity to view what we do fund under the BIE program, such as curriculum development, program development, faculty development, student development, and business outreach, to name a few. And that might look like, for example, new courses, infusion of existing courses, developing an interdisciplinary major or minor, working with study abroad for both your undergraduate or graduate students, developing overseas linkages, establishing programs to infuse business foreign language skills, things of that sort, internships, job shadowing, fellowships. Those are all the things that fall under this purview. And again, as I mentioned before, this list is not exhaustive, but it must meet the overall guidelines of the BIE program. Certain examples include the following: improving the curriculum, establishing export education programs, internationalizing the curriculum, internships, faculty development, and linkages with foreign institutions to develop internships for your students or developmental activities for your faculty. More examples of fundable activities include, as I mentioned, internships, offer summer institutes for international business or any other internationalized business major. You can actually infuse your business courses with your study abroad or your area studies programs. So you can create your own interdisciplinary program if that is the need of your institution, as long as it has some sort of international business infusion. Again, I recommend you consult the application for the full statute and regulations on all fundable activities. Ineligible activities. Activities whose primary goal is to engaged in the ability for foreign institutions or businesses, meaning that the federal funds are being used for foreign institutions or business enterprises, and that is a no-no. That's an automatic ineligible activity. You can, however, partner with foreign institutions or businesses, but it should not be used for federal, you should not use your federal funding for this activity. You can use your matching or your partner's funding, but you cannot use your federal funding to fund an activity such as this. That's a no for federal funding. The average award this year, we're hoping to make at least 20 new awards. We're expecting about 50 new applicants. The average award is $87,000 a year, but in the application, you'll see the range from $70,000 to $95,000, which is the cap of the award. No award will be more than $95,000 a year. And there's a 2-year maximum award, meaning that you will only be granted no more than 24 months of program funding from the federal government. And we do award 1 year at a time based on, and your second year award is authorized based on you making substantial progress in your year 1 award. Cost match. There is a cost match requirement for the Business International Education Program, and that's essentially a 1-to-1 match. So for every dollar you ask for the federal government to support, you must match with cash or in kind. For example, if your total cost of your project is $180,000 per se, 90 will come from the federal government and 90 plus will come from your institutional support. That's the 1-to-1 match. And unfortunately, under the BIA program, there's not a waiver allocation, so you must match the 1-for-1, whether you are a MSI, Title III, or Title V. BIE does require a mandatory cost match requirement. Selection criteria and proposal development. BIE selection criteria consists of 6 major criteria, which are the extent of need, plan of operation, quality of key personnel, budget and cost effectiveness, plan of evaluation, and adequacy of resources. As you can see, you can receive up to the points in the parentheses to a total of 100 points for the selection criterion. Your extent of need is your first criterion and is worth up to 25 points. And in the selection, you'll actually outline your overall need for the BIE program, whether it be a combination of your institutional needs in addition to your community needs. You would tell us why it's important for BIE funding. You will document your current needs, whether they be through surveys or data collection, and you need to demonstrate exactly what the linkages are with the business community, and also describe that in full. It's not required to be self-sustaining, but the overall goal of the program is that you will eventually become self-sustaining in this capacity. So your plan should be sustainable if possible. With a plan of operation worth up to 20 points, this is where you would describe your activities, how they relate to the overall statute and regulations of BIE. You would explain what you're going to be doing. In some cases, you might want to include a timeline or a plan where you're running through both years on the activities you hope to accomplish in your academic setting as well as your business community setting. And you must state that you are in compliance with equal access. That's all captured in the plan of operation. Quality of key personnel, worth up to 10 points. Here's where you talk about the project director and other key staff members. So a project director does not have to necessarily be in the School of Business. However, this person is going to be leading the effort, whether they have, whether they're an academic in the School of Business or the School of area studies, but this person is uniquely involved in all the buildings of this particular grant, as well as working with the business community. So in some cases, you might designate a project director for the academic portion, or maybe a co-project director who's best suited to meet to handle the business community to serve in that capacity. So whatever works for you, you want to make sure it's spelled out in this application section for key personnel. You should also include the percentage of time devoted to the project, any kind of important information that the reviewers can use to determine the feasibility of you heading up the project. Key personnel. You want to make sure that you give as much information as possible about the key solid personnel. And here also you can talk about other key members, whether they are key faculty members, outside evaluations, subject matter experts that you're bringing in to help consult. Here's where, if they're a part of your key personnel, then you should discuss that in this section. Budget and cost effectiveness, worth up to 15 points. This is where you would detail the exact request for federal funds and how well you're able to match them. You'll provide, normally we see our applicants provide a Excel spreadsheet to outline the federal requests and the actual match. So for example, if you're requesting $90,000, your match must equal to at least $90,000. And you can describe this whether it be in hard dollars or release time or institutional resources. But this is where you will tell the story of how well you're able to meet the cost of the project. And make sure that you deaggregate the actual funds, meaning that it should be easy for the committee to see how you're going to use the federal funds and how you are matching. And it might be helpful if you align the matching and the federal request to the activities and objectives you're hoping to receive funds for. For example, it should be clear, whether it be in the narrative or a footnote, that this money is related to this activity or this program goal. It's easier for the reviewers to see it that way. I've actually provided a sample worksheet that works best for relaying the budget. As you see here, you'll see the major budget categories from personnel, fringe, travel, equipment, supplies, and contractual and other. Honestly, the majority of the costs fall in the other category, whether it be hosting a outreach activity in the business community, that will fall under other, or helping your faculty develop certain courses or supporting certain activities. Other is pretty much a catch-all. And you can see here, I've given you an example of the federal requests, then your matching funds, and then your total BIE budget. And in some cases with your partnerships, they might actually give you hard dollars or resources that you can actually account for your match as well. So you can use a portion, if you receive any kind of portion assistance from your partnerships, that can also count towards your match as well. And this is an example of how best to outline your budget. Now you can provide an Excel spreadsheet or any other spreadsheet type of outline, as long as the review panel can understand exactly what your ask is and what your match is over the next 24 months. The plan of evaluation, worth up to 25 points. This is an extremely important part of the BIE application process. So here you'll be giving us an understanding of any kind of data elements, data collection procedures. You're going to discuss if you're going to be bringing in an outside subject matter expert here, you're going to have emphasis in exactly what you're going to be able to change and how you're going to be able to assess that change, or any kind of evaluation tools, methodology. You want to make sure you provide any kind of data here. As I mentioned before, although an external evaluator is not a mandatory necessary activity you need to fund, we do recommend you bringing in an outside evaluator. That way it can help you stay on track. Worth up to 25 points here. And your adequacy of resources, worth up to 5 points. So here is where you'll talk about the actual resources you're able to contribute to the BIA project, whether they're, in facilities, anything that you deem valued a resource is where you'll talk about here. Now, although it's only worth 5 points, it's important to discuss how those resources align to your proposal, your proposed activities. So it shouldn't be, for example, that we have a nice new business building, or we have a beautiful, nice, shining small development center. You need to align how those activities and resources kind of mesh together. Now for the invitational priorities. The invitational priorities are as follows. Now, mind you, there's no penalty given, no points awarded for invitational priorities. Invitational priorities are a way for the administration to kind of get a snapshot of different initiatives. And so for this go around, we want to encourage MSIs, minority serving institutions such as HBCUs and HSIs and Pacific Islander and institutions like that to apply for our programs. Although there is no direct additional points awarded, but we're just trying to encourage our MSIs to apply, as well as our community colleges. And for our second invitational priority, we are looking for programs that focus on international business, as well as languages outside of German, French, and Spanish. And you can develop international programs focusing on contemporary topics or themes. Again, this is an invitational priority, and there's no points given, no points penalized if you choose to meet it or not meet it. Application tips. So again, this is my recommendations. There's things that I've noticed that have been beneficial for successful applications. And I'll just start with the abstract. The abstract tells the story of who you are as an applicant. It kind of introduces you to the peer review process. It gives a basic understanding of what you're going to be doing over the next 2 years, the partners you're choosing to work with, and how that aligns with the overall institutional and business community goals. It's the first impression, so it sets the tone. It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, but it should be a one-page, concise document to discuss exactly what the project is going to be about. So, in some cases, our applicants might want to write a proposal and then come back and write the abstract. But the abstract is the first thing the reviewers see when they're looking at reviewing your application. Again, just tips that we've collected over the years for all of our programs. You don't want to recite national statistics that you find in periodicals. You want to give hardcore, factual evidence of why the need is important for the BIE program, whether it be local or regional research, information from your business faculty or student surveys. Surveys are a good way to collect data information for your need. You also might want to work with your partner, and I just gave examples of the Chamber of Commerce, economic development agencies, etc., to collect data to help support your business communication or your business community efforts. So those are the types of things that will help strengthen your application, and those can all be placed in your appendices. more application tips. As I mentioned before, the activities, the money, the direction should all flow together. It should seem very, very logically to have both the academic program meet the business program, the business community program. So it should kind of mesh together. For example, if you're looking at doing business in Asia, the focus should be a definite clear-cut approach to the business community in Asia, as well as, you know, academically what you're doing in that world area as well. So it should make sense of why you're coming together. And of course, including formative and substantive evaluation plans are also a good thing. You know, anything that you can measure what will change, as I mentioned before, including an outside evaluator that you can charge to the grant. So we like to see outside evaluators being a cost share activity. However, you know, if it's more beneficial for that to be a part of the federal request, then I would, you know, highly advise you looking at your budget for an external evaluator and budget with your federal request. But we do recommend you looking at it as a cost share activity. Again, as I mentioned before, the match is mandatory. We pay, the feds will supply 50% of the total cost of the project, and the applicant supplies the other 50%. That's why it's a dollar for dollar, 50% match requirement. Again, as I mentioned before, the money should follow the objectives, and you need to be really, really, really clear on what the money is being used for. If it's unclear, vague, or it seems to be too excessive or too ambitious as far as your request or ask, it does lend itself for red flags. So I would just be succinctly clear on how your objectives tie in with your funding over the next 24 months. And, you know, because it is a federal application process, please, please, please carefully read the application instructions, including the Federal Register notice and all of the actual information in the application package, because I would hate for you to be disqualified for example, if you're asking for more than the ceiling amount. And you can match as much as you choose to, but there is a ceiling for the program, and that is no more than $95,000 per year. As I mentioned before, anything that seems to be excessive in international travel is a red flag. Any double dipping, meaning that you're paying yourself an honorarium for your faculty, in addition to they're receiving funding to do international travel, or if it appears that it's more of a personnel grab as far as federal funding or match, it does tend to bring red flags up. So my best advice was to make sure that the overall program funding centers around the actual project itself, not an international travel and not on faculty honorariums. But the money should be really used to build the capacity of your academic programs, as well as meet the needs of your business community. Those are the two most important aspects of developing your budget. As I mentioned before, although it's not a mandatory requirement, we do recommend you use the outside evaluator. They can be a great resource throughout the project. In some cases, you might have them do outside evaluation, as well as possibly maybe running a faculty development workshop, or something to the effect of doing maybe like a lunch and learn or a chat and chew with your business community. So an outside evaluator is really your subject matter expert. So as long as it makes sense to have them actually be involved in multi aspects of the grant, is perfectly fine. Now, I do caution you, the outside evaluator should be a person that is actually separate and independent from your institution. So we ask that you keep your outside evaluator not another faculty member in the institution, but it should be someone separate and unbiased and independent from your institution, not a fellow faculty member. So for example, if you find someone to work with at a cyber, that's legal, which is the Centers for International Business and Education, one of our other Title VI programs. You can use the subject matter expert there, or maybe with an NRC, or someone completely different in the business community. Those are all legal outside evaluators that we do actually like to see in the project. And you can use federal funds as well as match to support their honorarium and cost. Your appendices. Now the page limit is recommended to be 35 pages for the actual criterion. However, you can include as much as you like in the appendices section. Of course, make sure that you must have your letter of agreement or your MIU. We recommend you upload the resumes of all key personnel, any kind of supporting data to establish need, evaluation tools, instruments. If you have surveys from students or results from surveys or anything important to help strengthen your application, you can include it all in the appendices section. The review process. So we bring in actual subject matter experts in international education to review our proposals. Sometimes it's past project directors, and other times it's others who have unique knowledge of our programs overall. It's over a 2-week review process virtually. The subject matter experts that we bring in receive a small honorarium, and everything is done. We try to get it done in that 2-week process. Now, we're trying to make sure that we can at least notify all of our applicants by the beginning of September. That's why it's important that we keep to our deadlines. And if you are interested in signing up for our reviewer education field read system, I highly encourage you to do so. You can't review for the programs that you're applying for, but there are lots of programs sponsored by the Department of Education that you can review for. So I highly encourage you to take a look at that review process system. It's self-selection. So for example, if you're interested in any program, you just let us know that you're interested in that program. It's just not the one you're applying to. Submitting your application. So grants.gov is unforgiving. You must meet all the guidelines, deadlines, application deadlines as far as uploading everything in grants.gov as is specified in the application. The program closes on August 13th at 11:59 p.m., not a second later, and I highly encourage you to submit your applications early. Highly encourage you to make sure that you work with your sponsor programs or grants office if you're not familiar with the grants.gov system, because it does require certain permissions to upload in grants.gov, and mostly that's handled by your sponsor programs officer or your grants office. So I encourage you not to wait until the last minute. And at this time, we do not accept any hard copy applications. Everything has to be submitted via grants.gov. Again, some more tips to help you think through the process. Please get organized. I highly encourage you to read the application from top to bottom, including the Federal Register notice, including any of the directions that we give you as a program office as far as organization of your application. Recommendations on how to address the selection criteria are all outlined in the application package. You might want to take a look at the FAQs we have online. Those are helpful questions to help you think through or to maybe answer questions that this webinar might not answer for you. We have all updated FAQs on our website. So I would definitely make sure, again, I can't stress this enough, please don't wait till the last minute to upload your application. Again, we do not take hard copies, and if grants.gov does not accept your application, unfortunately, neither can I. So, so please, please, please follow the guidelines in the grants.gov process of upload. For program contact information and program inquiries, please email bie@ed.gov. Encourage you to take a look at the FAQs and the website overall. My name is Tanyelle Richardson. You can reach me directly at tanyelle.richardson@ed.gov, and I can answer any question. Again, the application closes on August the 13th, so I highly encourage you to get cracking. Thank you. Much success to you in your submission, and have a good one. Goodbye.